Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units of real estate and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So today I want to talk about how I'm seeing things shift over to becoming from a seller's market to a buyer's market. So when I bought most of my real estate portfolio from 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, especially 22, um, felt like it was always a seller's market where people were always overbidding on single family homes because interest rates were low. People had multiple offers and they made it known that they had multiple offers. And realtors were very hard to get a hold of. Brokers were hard to get a hold of. They would rarely respond to you and they wouldn't take your offers as seriously. But now I'm kind of seeing a shift where, obviously the real estate market has slowed significantly due to interest rates being high at close to 7%, and a lot of sellers that are selling are now in more desperate situations because most people who bought during COVID or owned a home during COVID, they refinanced to a 3% interest rate. And obviously, even if they want to trade up to a bigger house, they have a hard time because it's hard to give up your 3% interest rate and you want to trade up to a bigger house. But now you're buying at a higher basis. Plus, your interest rates can be like, 6.5 to 7% on top of that. So it just doesn't make it as desirable to want to trade up. So a lot of people are kind of holding off. And, a lot of sellers are unrealistic in terms of they're wanting that 2021 prices where people are overbidding. But now you have time. Days on market are going higher, especially like in Huntsville, Alabama. And markets where there's a lot of new construction, the sellers that are selling homes that are like, 2 to 5 years old, they're getting screwed now. And I'm seeing it like firsthand in Huntsville, Alabama. So that's why I've been getting more active on like Zillow, on Redfin, where I have my search criteria. And, I've basically been like texting realtors saying, hey, like interested in your property. Is the owner open to doing something creative? Or are they just looking to straight sell? And typically, I'm going to give them two offers. I'm going to give them my lower ball, just straight up, traditional bank offer, which isn't going to be that competitive. And I'm going to give them an offer where I take over their loan subject to, and I ask for a seller carry second in a way where I can give them their price and I can still cash on this property and hopefully assume their low interest rate. So, and a lot of times, I send out 30 text messages, maybe like 10 will like respond, and then of which some will just outright, five or four or six would be like, no, they want to straight sell. And then four would be like, let me ask, right? Or they'll just be like, oh, we were pitched this offer before. So realtors are now already know they're getting pitched like creative finance deals where you're assuming the loan, you're doing a seller carry second, because we know these sellers are getting more and more desperate and shifting to a buyer's market. Like for me, I'm agnostic to which or indifferent to what deals I get. I just want a good deal where I can assume the interest rate, hopefully around 3-4%, and I can get a seller carry second and hopefully put no to low money down and rent this unit out and make some cash flow of like $0 out of my pocket, right? And I know there's so many of these deals because, like, for example, in Huntsville, Alabama, there's a bunch of new construction, and you can basically buy a 4 bedroom, 3 bath, 2,000 square foot home through Lennar, D.R. Horton, big builders, and you can basically buy them for like, let's just call it 290, and they're willing to like give you cover your closing costs, give you incentives. They might give you blinds. They might give you appliances. They might buy down your interest rate for you. So I know like Lennar in Huntsville, like they're willing to give you like a buy down your interest rate. So your interest rate's like maybe 2% year one, 3% year two, and then it becomes like 5.5%, year three and onward, right? So they're trying to incentivize people to come in. So I just said, hey, 5.5% is not that bad, right? Like you can still make deals work. So I've been telling, and they're selling for like 290, and then here you have people who bought homes for 290 back in like 2021, 2022, right? That's kind of what I bought my property for. But now they're forced to sell either because they got laid off, they need to move due to a job, or it is a death in the family and they just want to leave the house. So that's what I'm saying. If you know you're not going to be somewhere for at least 7 to 10 years, don't even buy a house. Because it's going to put you in a bad financial situation like a lot of these sellers are, right? Like you're better off just renting. And then you have that flexibility that your job moves or you're more transient, then move, right? But life happens and people want a nice house to live in, right? So for me, if you know you're going to be transient, like just rent, like what I did. But now that I know I'm going to be here for a while, that's when I bought my house that I'm in right now. But anyways, like they bought the house for like 280 and they're trying to sell it for like 10% more usually than what they bought it for. And I know why they're doing that. So basically, you can see a listing. Maybe they bought for 290. Like they'll list it for like 360, right? Or something like that. And then every like 2 weeks, you see the price going down 360, 350, 340, 330. And eventually it goes to the point where it's just 10% more than what they bought it for. So if you bought it for, let's say 290, roughly you're going to be at like 310. And why they want 10% more is because that's how much it costs to sell a property, right? So if I bought it for 290 and I sell it for 310, your closing costs, your realtor fees and all that, it's about 10%, right? So that's going to be about $30,000 to be your cost to sell this property. And you just break even and move on and take your money and move it to the next deal. So basically, realtors are kind of giving, and I don't know if it's intentional or not either. The realtor is, at best incompetent, or at worst, they're just trying to say whatever to get the listing and then let the market set their expectations, which I feel like a lot of realtors may do that as a strategy. Like, hey, you can sell this for 360, and then 6 months later, oh, sorry, you can sell it for like 300. And that's what happened to me when I sold my mobile park. Oh, this is worth 2.1 million, and it went down to 1.9, and it went down, and I sold it for 1.5. Right? So like they just wait for me to get beaten up, and then wait for me to get more desperate, and then from there, pivot accordingly. So anyways, I know what they're trying to do. So I saw multiple price drops. It's now 310. They're trying to sell it to break even. So I wait even further because I know the average day on market's about 60 days. So if it's beyond 60 days, they're hurting a little bit. And a lot of the sellers, they want to sell because they got a job somewhere else. So I just said, hey, maybe I'll pay you 310 if I take over the loan, subject to, and you do a seller carry second. I'm no to low money down, and I know I can rent this out for about $1,900, $2,000 a month. So I just need to know how much the cost is of the loan payment, property tax, insurance, principal, interest. Right? If I know all that, and then I do a seller carry second, I usually offer 1% starting because I know my monthly cost and HOA and how much it's going to rent out, and I know I'm going to pay 10% property management fee if I use my same property manager. So I want to get these deals because I know they're desperate. Like, and I'm willing to like cover closing costs potentially, right? Or I'll cover the realtor fees. So instead of them paying the realtor 2.5%, 3%, I'm just paying them 2.5%, 3%. So it really depends on the negotiation because I know these sellers, they're just trying to break even. But let's just say they were to sell it for 300 and they bought for 290. Well, their closing costs would be 30,000. Let's just call it 10%. So they're actually going to take home 270, but they bought for 290. So they're actually losing money in the deal. And depending on how large of a down payment they did, if they did only a 3.5%, 5% down, you're coming to the closing table with money that they may or may not have. So I can solve that problem by taking over the loan, subject to, and I can cover most of the closing costs because I'm putting zero down. So I'm waiting for sellers to be in this situation, and it's not often, but like I might have like 3 where they're like considering it. And to me, it's just a waiting game. I just save these listings and I put on my calendar a month, 2 months later, follow up with these realtors. And what's nice is when I favorite it on Zillow, I could see, was this house sold, or is it still on the market, or was it taken off the market? Like I've seen multiple times where it was listed on the market, now they're trying to rent it out. Right? I've seen it multiple times where the listing's off, but I set the number. So I can contact the realtor again and say, hey, sell this to me off market. I'm willing to make an offer, and I can take this off your hands, and you get your commission, and I'll cover the commission. Because one realtor that called back, she was like, hey, let me pitch refinance to him. Like maybe he'll let you assume the loan. Maybe he'll do a seller carry second. But will you make sure that my commissions are covered by you? I was like, yeah, by all means, depending on how I negotiate the price, I'm happy to pay the realtor fees. All realtors care about is their commission. Do they get commission? Do they get their 2.5%, 3% commission? That's all they care about. Right? That's really it. So if I reassure them that they're getting this and you work with me, you get paid. And I can close on this deal because I own a rental there. Like it's so funny. Like there's like literally 2 properties on the same street as the property I bought in 2021. So I know it's a bad time for me to sell. So, I want to hold this long term. But they're basically in a situation where they're trying to sell at break even after fees. But I know that it won't even sell at break even because why would I buy your house for 310 straight buy when I can buy a brand new house for 290? And plus they'll cover my closing costs, plus they'll bite on my interest rate, plus they'll give me incentives, and plus it's a newer house. So why would I buy your house for 310? And I was trying to explain that to the realtor. And it was a hard message for them to hear, but they know it's true. Why would I buy a used house that's 3 years old 5 years old for 310 when I could buy a new construction for 290 and pick my furnishings, pick my flooring, have that 1 year warranty, and it's more desirable for renters. So why would I do that? The only reason why I want to buy your house for 310 versus a new construction for 290 is because I want to take over your loan and you're gonna give me seller carry second. And I'm gonna rent this out in cash flow because I want to assume your amazing interest rate of 3%. But builders are giving 5%, like 5.5% loans now, right? But I have to put 20, 25, 30% down. I don't want to. I could, but it'd take me longer, but I'd rather get a house 5%, no down, and then deal with that house at that point. So that's really kind of my strategy. Like I literally saw 2 houses. I reached out to both, and I literally saw like not much further away. It's like, oh, this one's like 290, new construction. So if I put like, $70,000 down, I can get this deal, and the bottom line rate to 5.5%, maybe it'll cash flow. So I only want to buy your property if you're willing to like do creative financing. Otherwise, no interest. So that's what I tell them, and I just follow up now. So I'm documenting my journey. Hopefully, I get a deal. Itching for a deal. But I have one stronger prospect. But a lot of times, these sellers need to be beaten into creative financing. They need to be beaten into it, and time is your friend in this situation. Make an offer and wait. Follow up. That's it. So, like I said, buyer or realtors are now reaching out to me proactively. Like I remember for the 50 unit that I've been talking about, and I offered like $1.5 million on. They just reached out to me, and basically told me that. Sorry, I just dropped you guys. So you got a nice little trip there if you stay this long. But basically, the realtor reached out to me and said, "Hey, we lowered the price to $2.1 million from 2.5, and I offered 2.3 a long time ago. But now I still only have it valued at like $1.5 million. So, just waiting longer and longer, So it's just a waiting game. Follow up, and now for the 50 unit, the guy was just like, oh, like they just want $500,000 out of pocket. So their loan is so they bought for 2.2, I believe. They put 50% down, so 1.1 is the loan. I think he locked in a 4.5% interest rate, 10-year fixed, good until I think maybe close to 2030. And obviously because he bought it so low, I think his monthly payment is about $4,700. But because he put such a large down payment, he's not cash flow negative, despite high expenses. So he grosses $400,000. His expense is $300,000. His NOI is $100,000. Divide that by 12. That's $8,000 a month. Minus his mortgage, it's $5,000. Let's just call it. He has $3,000 a month in cash flow. Times that by 12. That's $360K. Divide that by $1.1 million. He's getting like a less than a 3% return on his money, which is not that great. But if I take over his loan, my monthly payment is $4,700, and he'd want to sell or carry up to $500,000. So he wants 1.6, but he wants $500,000 in his pocket. So that's why he wants $2.1 million. So he's basically willing to say, you can assume my loan, I'll sell or carry $500,000, and then I want my $500,000 at a value of $2.1 million. But even me, I don't think it's worth it, and I want to play the waiting game because there's a Section 8 as well. So now brokers, realtors are more desperate, and they're reaching out to me, and they're more open and savvy to creative financing because that's the only way to go right now if you're in a desperate situation. So I'll keep you guys posted on the 50 unit as well, but like I doubt I'm going to buy it because I'm only willing to offer like $1.5 million where I assume the loan and you sell or carry $500,000. And at that point, I'll take on the risk of, converting this from a Section 8 project to a voucher. So anyways, we'll keep you guys posted. If you want to buy multifamily real estate or some guidance and mentorship, click on the link down below. From there, you see links to my coaching, my courses. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.